right and what's wrong. But on this night, we do what we want. We make our own rules. This is our night. This is
our show.
On this night, we rise.
This is the bleeding edge of science, technology, and ethics. This is
Solution. Unwilling to submit.
We learn all that is learnable.
Tonight, power shifts. Tonight, we raise our instruments of anarchy.
Peaceful coexistence, encryption, software, secure devices, and our minds.
Tonight, we are unbound by law.
It's time for Sovryn Tech. And now your host, the golden stallion of the tech world, the rated R radio star, Brian Sovryn.
Woo! The man that Silicon Valley calls the party crasher, but everyone else knows, ooh, is really the party starter, baby, because I'm the golden stallion. I'm the man of tomorrow. I'm Savzu, and baby, whether I'm getting behind the mic or, woo, I'm getting in the sack, I'm the best there is, and I've got 200 episodes and thousands and thousands of listeners that says so, baby. Woo! I don't need to tell you it's time for Sovryn Tech because that's why you're here. Woo! Because every week, hell, every day, you know what I'm talking about. Woo! I'm not a 60-minute man. I'm a 120-minute man, baby. Woo! Take that one on, Slick Rick. Woo! Oh, yeah. It is Sovryn Tech, and I am ready. I am so ready to go this week, and I hope you get used to hearing all these intros, hearing that opening intro there, and the music, all the hotness, because it's the last time that you're going to hear that particular one, because, episode 200's coming. We got episode 199B, will there be? Woo! Will there be? And episode 199C, ooh, maybe. But let's get right into this week's news. The random access, or something that I'm going to be changing the name of come episode 200. But, again, I won't spoil the surprise, but I got a great idea for it. But let's get into it. So much to cover because it's 199B. Woo! And, oh, man. Oh. Why don't we, since we're ending off this particular, I don't even know what the word I would use, not century, but this particular, 100 round, from 100 to 200, why don't we end it off with a little update on an episode that I did, what has it been, a month, 2 months now, since Arcade City, woo, bringing it up, since Arcade City was supposed to be out, and where is it? Still nowhere. The rideshare ability is nowhere to be seen. It's just not there. And recently they did this crowd sale, which I think I might have mentioned on Sovryn Tech at some point, and I can't believe this. Okay. I can't believe this because apparently they've earned more Arcade City with their little crowdfund job that they did where, they're selling tokens. I mean, the rideshare ability still isn't here, folks. What in the goddamn fuck are you doing putting any more money into something that was promised, what was it, the beginning of September? It was promised even before that, but that's when we said, oh yeah, no, it'll be next week. What was after that Blockchain World Conference or something? Didn't happen. Apparently, thankfully at least, when Christopher David went to Shanghai, literally to Shanghai, to that Ethereum conference, it would appear that he didn't get any money from that. At least I hope he didn't. But holy shit, the rideshare ability still does not exist. But they did this. Their tokens are called ARC. Now, I'm from upstate New York. Well, I'm from New York in general, New York City, blah, blah, blah. But, I lived in upstate New York for a while. And in upstate New York, ARC stood for, and I mean this with all due respect, and I mean that, all due respect. I have a lot of empathy for these people, but it stood for the organization that ran the little blue buses, if you know what I mean. So a lot of people bought a lot of ARC, and I mean that to be so nice. I really do. But they did. And now, I mean, I'm only guessing that there's, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I think they got funding to the tune, or they got VC funding of some sort or angel funding to $300,000 previously. It was just like 270, something like that. So, and the claim is by Christopher David is that, or by Arcade City, is that it's now even more than that they made more in like a week than they did with all their VC funding combined. So we can assume, I guess, that there's that much involved. But again, that functionality that was supposed to be in the bag, in the bank, ready to go, still isn't here. And of all ironies, another app actually done by very liberty-oriented people, Cell 411, which isn't an app I've talked about much, but whatever, these people can build what they like. But I think they've already released their rideshare functionality, and that wasn't even designed. Cell 411 wasn't even designed for rideshare, as I understand it. They're just like, oh, well, shit, let's do it. And they did it, and it's already done. This is such a joke. Well, you can listen to it's an episode. Sadly, I don't remember the exact number of the episode off the top of my head. Maybe it was like 192 or something like that. But the title of it was, you get a blockchain, you get a blockchain, you get a blockchain. You look that up when you go to sovryntech.com, or if you go to the SoundCloud page, whatever, or you go to zog.ninja, and you'll find it. Woo! Unbelievable, this company. Quote unquote company. I shouldn't really even call it a company. Oh, you're a company when you deliver what you're talking about, okay? My game company, Zomi Offline Games, is a fucking company because I'm 2 games deep, going on 3. I've delivered my goods on my own, and I'm not the best programmer either, Christopher David, but God damn it, I'm going to stick to my guns and my word. All right. Anyway, let's move on from that. Well, actually, this is kind of relevant. This is pretty relevant. I want you to, if you're not a Sovryn Tech patron, if you're not on with Patreon for Sovryn Tech, and all I ask is $1 a month. If you want to do more, and a lot of people that were only doing $1 in the past month have upped their game significantly, and I so appreciate that. I am so honored by that. I got a lot of gracious emails, messages, whatever, about this past week's Q&A. And I had the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy on to talk a very important subject with me that largely has to do with the liberty movement, libertarians, anarchists in general, perhaps why there isn't so much diversity and all that. And I mean, we went a good hour and a half or so, and the amount of, we went out on a limb on a lot of things that we said in that, and the amount, just the great supportive response that we got for that episode. I am so honored. And I mean this, I know there's a lot of shit fucks out there that, they like, oh yeah, my fans are idiots. I just soak them up or something like that. No. I know that the people on the other side of this microphone, if you know what I mean, are not stupid. Much like Gene Roddenberry said, that was the whole goal behind Star Trek, right? Was that he had an idea. His one idea is that the person on the other side of the screen was not an idiot. And I know that is my same goal. I know that. And this week just proved it with that Q&A, the great response I got from that. So if you're not a patron yet, all you have to do now is just go to sovryntech.com. That's all you got to do, because that takes you right to the Patreon page. And everything you could want to find there. My sponsors are there. Everything's there. All the information you could possibly, the email address, ways to get in touch with me, all that stuff is there for you. So just go to sovryntech.com. You don't even have to go to patreon.com/sovryntech. I made it very easy for you. And you can become a patron, at least $1 if you want to do more. Satan love you. I think that's great. Okay. But you want to hear this recent Q&A episode. People really seem to enjoy it. And I'm glad they did. But anyway, let's get on with the rest of the random access here. I wanted to bring that up because, well, when you talk about things like Arcade City, well, maybe that episode gets into a lot of the symptoms and a lot of the roots of how this kind of shit even begins to happen. Now, also, all right. Before I go much further, this episode, so yes, in case you're noticing, like we're getting into sort of regular news and all that, this episode is kind of a special animal. I originally had an interview planned for this episode where I was going to have Derek Slopey, who I consider a good friend, great guy, and is also one of the primary team members at a Sovryn Tech sponsor, that being AgoristhHosting.com. And I was going to have that interview with him. Unfortunately, that's why, this episode was scheduled the way it was, instead of just having what is going to be 199C play this week. Unfortunately, when I recorded it and we couldn't reschedule in time for this episode, and I couldn't fix it, as hard as I try and as, good as I am, I say that with tongue in cheek, as good as I am with technology, I could not fix this interview. For example, just so you can hear, give me like a 40-foot view of why does this exist? What's the purpose? Like, what's the plan?
Well, I've been doing hosting for a long time for kind of just particular clients. And Drew Phillips.
See what I mean? So that's not going to make it on the air as much. It was an awesome interview. We talked for like an hour too, and it was about all kinds of things because Derek Slopey does all sorts of shit. It wasn't just like, this big 1 hour long thing about Agorist hosting. All right. But anyway, unfortunately, just to bring me some clarity as to what's going on, as to why this is working out this way. That is why, because audio troubles, and Skype. So, speaking of Skype, actually, why don't we get into this part of the random access? We will get that interview though. We'll have to re-record it, and I will get it out to you as soon as possible. It's really important stuff that gets talked about. Super important stuff. I'm really excited to have Derek Slopey on, and I plan on having him and some other people. We're going to do a classic computer roundtable. Okay. And it's going to be a lot of fun because, just to be a bunch of guys that have been around the whole tech space for a good long while, far, even longer than me. And I just think it'll be a phenomenal conversation. So I can't wait to do that episode. But unfortunately, that interview, as you heard, it will obviously will not get played here. You heard just that little bit of how that turned out. And I'm still not 100% certain why that happened, but I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Woo! Because I'm the Golden Stallion. Oh, even the Golden Stallion can fail sometimes. But anyway, speaking of Skype, which was the real failure here, and maybe it had to do with, like we've talked about, okay, and this is actually relevant to this bit of story, this bit of business for the random access here. Skype has, a lot of people have been wondering, why does my mobile app of Skype act totally differently than, my desktop version of Skype? Like, when I type something out, it won't show up for hours later in the mobile app, or, vice versa, or something will never even appear. What the hell is going on? Well, we found out, and we talked about this on Sovryn Tech, we found out a few months ago, just over the summer, that the reason that was happening is because Skype has been, for, its over a decade-long existence, has been largely a peer-to-peer technology, and in many ways, a damn fine one. In many ways, not in all ways. It's really spyware at the end of the day for whatever alphabet soup organization you care to name. But it was a peer-to-peer implementation, and there was a while where the company was, I got to give them respect. They were very much rogue. They would not pay any attention whatsoever to any government, organization or laws or anything. And they said, we're not a telecom. You're not going to treat us like a telecom. Fuck you. We're Skype. We're a peer-to-peer VoIP option. That's all we are. You're not going to put us under any standing regulation, which I think is great. That's how every piece of software, every new technology should act, saying fuck you to the government and moving on. All right. Now, Skype, of course, got bought out in 2011 by Microsoft. So all that changed. That attitude's out the door, at least in some ways, even though some things Microsoft has done as late has definitely been, anti-government. I think it could get labeled that way. But anyway, this week they announced they had their little Office event, which we covered all of the October events in last week's episode of Sovryn Tech, episode 199A. titled The Red October. So, and interestingly, this week's title also has red in it. But anyway, we covered all that, and they also had another event this past week, this first week of November here. And it was called the Office event. And one of the big highlights of it was some new Skype functionality just in general, to where now Skype can do SMS and all that. But mainly it's with a Windows 10 mobile device, between, a Windows 10 device and a Windows 10 mobile device, a Windows 10 computer, I should say, or PC. But the big deal was what's called not Skype Teams, which is what we thought it was going to be called. And we talked about it a little while ago when it was first kind of leaked on Sovryn Tech. It's being called Microsoft Teams, and its entire purpose in life is to mimic and try to take customers away or keep customers away from Slack. Now on Sovryn Tech, we hate Slack. We hate it. Why? Because what Slack really is, Slack is an IRC alternative. Let's be super clear on this. That's what it is. It's an IRC alternative. But the reason why I think it gets such a big push, I think it gets a big push from the government. I think it, much like Skype eventually became, is a piece of spyware for alphabet soup organizations. Why? Because, what's the beautiful thing that people like about Skype? You can search. You can search like all these chat rooms and everything. Not so easy to do with IRC, is it? But of course, what's, that handy ability for, say, a business that uses Slack to integrate, to communicate with their team, is also handy for the NSA, the CIA, GCHQ, go down the list, right? That's the thing. They don't want people using IRC anymore. In my opinion, okay, any company, any company that's really trying so fucking hard to make something to fuck the legacy system, I hope their development team is using IRC. I'm not going to necessarily hold it against them if they do, but you'd hope they'd appreciate it. So anyway, so now Microsoft Teams is all about, taking on this, Slack, which a lot of people are actually falling away from. They really don't like it. And there's a huge conversation that could be had around that, about, what some people are calling the juvenilization of the workplace, which, like I said, that's a huge subject on its own. That's its own main story, and maybe sometime I'll do it. I'm not giving you a judgment on that whole concept either way here. Okay. I don't like Slack for completely different reasons, but people complain that, well, when you have Slack, which has all these plugins and everything, people end up playing Jeopardy while they're, communicating with their team, and so they're not really getting a lot of work done, blah, blah, whatever. Okay. So Microsoft Teams has the same ability where you can bring in third-party plugins and all that. But of course, the, what would be considered the killer app of the app that is Microsoft Teams, would be that it has automatic integration with Skype, which that's a winning combination, admittedly. Most people's Skype accounts are as important as their phone books, as their CSV for their Google account or whatever. It's that big a deal. You have contacts on there that you've had forever. So that's a big deal. And then also it integrates easily with Office, which again, folks, understand. As far as what makes the world go round and round right now, it really still is in so many ways. As much as Linux has gotten a lot of penetration in some very interesting areas, it's true, and I'm glad. Okay. What really gets shit done in the world today, especially in the with the little people in the world. I say that with respect. I don't believe that there are little people. Okay. There's, there are little people as in, they're under 5 feet, but you know what I mean? So, it's by everybody. They use Microsoft. They use, Windows, Windows, whatever, Windows 7, 8, 10, whatever they're using. Okay. And they are going to end up, they use Skype. They use all this other stuff. Like I said, most podcasts, if they were honest, they'll admit to you, good or bad. And I certainly had a bad experience this week. They, when they're communicating with anyone else outside of their studio or what makes for a studio, they're using Skype, right? So having a Slack-like system built right in with Skype, oh, fuck yeah, people are going to use this. Now, it's not coming out until January, okay, for everybody else. It's in beta right now for Office 365 business users and all that. And I haven't had the chance, to really look at it. But even if it just completely mimics what Slack does, honestly, I think it's going to be a winning combination. And to some degree, it's also great because that's one it's going to be under your Microsoft account, so you don't have to open up another account to have this kind of functionality. Great, in my opinion. You always want as few accounts as possible. So, hey, it's out there. Microsoft Teams is a thing. And, it really goes, I think it also plays into a much larger, which we sort of hinted at last week on Sovryn Tech when we were talking about the hardware event that Microsoft held, which that is, all of this interoperability with Office. And what did they show Office could do at the hardware event the previous week? They showed how you can easily put in 3D objects and all this stuff. Now, what is really that all about? What is all this like, oh, well, now it's Paint 3D and everything's allowing for 3D and easy integration. And now, we have the Surface, the Surface Studio, which is just a gorgeous computer. Regardless of your feelings on Windows, it's a stunning piece of machinery. That can easily can do all this wild stuff, is designed for art and graphic design and all that. And it makes, building 3D objects and all these other things, really great. What is Microsoft doing here? Well, it's obvious what they're doing. They are building, they're banking big with like HoloLens and Windows Holographic, the operating system, which is really just Windows 10, but they are banking on the future being mixed reality, not even just augmented reality, not even virtual reality, but a combination of both, of augmented at times, virtual at times, however it has to shape up. Okay. And that's what a lot of people are calling that mixed reality. Some companies now are calling it merged reality. I don't know, whenever those words are going to get meted out, I'm not sure, but whatever. So they're banking big on the future being mixed reality. So for that to be a big deal, they need to create the tools. They need to offer the tools for people to create that future. That's what this is all about. That's what the Surface Studio is about. That's what the Surface Book is all about. That's what that little the Surface Dial, which a lot of people are considering brilliant now after they thought about it. That a lot of these different things, even Microsoft Teams and all this different stuff, it's all about building that mixed reality future. Now, I'm not saying I want Microsoft in charge of that, and I'm not saying I want it to be proprietary, but I am game on in many ways for a mixed reality future, as long as it's optional. So, I mean, hey, this is part and parcel of that. Understand that is the grand plan. That's why these things are all getting developed. That's why Microsoft is doing everything that they do, is because they are looking at mixed, they want to offer the tools for people to, as easily as possible, maybe not as cheaply, because some of that shit's expensive, but they want them to be able to create that mixed reality, that mixed reality future. There it is. Let's get into a couple other stories. Oh man. Wow. Apple, speaking of while we're on the topic of what Microsoft was talking about a couple weeks ago, let's talk about what Apple was talking about a couple weeks ago and the reality today. We talked about one of my main critiques over the MacBook Pro, which has all USB-C ports and the cowardly, by their metric, by Phil Schiller's metric at Apple, the cowardly headphone jack. Which, as we said in last week's episode, what the fuck are you doing telling us that the headphone jack is antiquated, it's bullshit, yada, 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 and then you put it in your newest laptop? Are you kidding? How insulting is that? Anyway, so, the other thing we talked about is that this thing's going to look like a spider because it's going to have so many goddamn dongles coming out of it at all times just to be able to do whatever you want out of it. Now, I had made the point and have been continuing to make the point that really, I think Apple should be called Apple Adapter Inc. That's the new company name because that's really their business. Now, ironically, I think they realize they put their foot in their mouth. That they put their foot up their own ass, proverbially, because this week, and this rarely happens. And, my listeners of mine that are Apple fans or they use Apple products, however you want to define yourself. Okay. I hope you realize this. I mean, I've been on board with Apple. I've been following Apple or been buying Apple products for almost 20 years now. Okay. Well, I mean, really earlier, but I was, kid. I wasn't really buying them. But as far as when I was buying them, yeah, it's been about 20 years now. And, they never have a sale. They never ever hold a sale of any kind where, oh yeah, 50% off, 40% off or something like that. You never hear that unless it's in, the refurb store or something like that. Sure. Then maybe they do it or they'll do a price cut, but it's never a sale, right? Well, this week, they are offering on all USB-C adapters, they are offering a wide range of sales. 40% off on SD card USB-C adapters, dongles, I should say. And 20% off on some others, 50%. I mean, like, just crazy, crazy sales. Why? Because they know they fucked up. I mean, good for them for listening to people who said, wait a second, I'm a pro. It's called a MacBook Pro because it's for professionals. Well, I'm a professional, like say a professional photographer or whatever, and I need a fucking SD card slot. I don't care if you think that, that it's antiquated. I need it. I use it. Everybody else still uses it. And you're not the ones making the cameras, not the real, the big bad DSLRs. Don't talk to me about the iPhone 7 camera. So, I mean, kudos for Apple for doing that. But again, cowardice. When you start putting USB-C adapters on sale, you have obviously lost confidence in your customer loyalty. You are cowards. You do not have, as Phil DeShill said, back was in September, courage for taking out that, the headphone adapter. Way to go. You're an adapter company now, fucker. Apple Adapters Inc. Unbelievable. And, I've been amazed. Like this week, the amount of blog posts, stories, and whatever else getting posted throughout tech journalism about the fact that, hey, Apple, Microsoft's going to take, and this is coming from Apple, people that use Apple products. It's not necessarily, I don't think it was native advertising. I really don't. They were saying, Apple, you are going to lose all of, a lot of your longtime fans and whoever else, you're going to lose them to Microsoft because of what you're doing with the MacBook Pro, and honestly, because Microsoft's doing some really impressive shit over here for once. It proves my point. I said this maybe a month ago. I said on Sovryn Tech that a lot of what you expect tech companies to be, a lot of what you think they are, like, oh, Microsoft's big green, or, Apple is this, the scrappy or something like that. Whatever you've thought of for the past 10 years that you think your tech companies are, whatever you thought Google was and all that, no longer true. It is these are all, all of the major tech companies, they are completely different companies now, except for Amazon. They're still on their same trajectory and they're beating everybody. But everybody else, they are changing their game, probably because they're terrified of Amazon, but whatever. What else do we have here? Well, I guess I could bring up, this is hilarious. So the Philips Hue light bulbs. Yeah, these are these light bulbs that they screw into regular light bulb sockets, and they can change colors. They can do all this wild stuff. You can program them with your smartphone. I never thought that I would ever want to program a light bulb with a smartphone, other than I'd like to be able to turn, I guess, light bulbs on and off. But no, these can turn all wild colors. They can do a sleep pattern for you, where they do a slow build up in the morning, blah, blah, blah. Can't imagine what your electric bill is for that. Well, whatever. I know LEDs. I get it. But anyway, it was demonstrated in the wild this past week that, with a drone, a person was able to, from outside of a house, or should I say with quadcopter, people want to make that distinction, right? They were able to effectively hack into, or hack and take control of a house's Philips Hue light bulbs. The Internet of Things, the Internet of Targets, right? The Internet of Things to be hacked, as I love to call it. Here they are. And I said this on various social media. Never in my wildest dreams, for as far back in my life as I can remember, could I ever remember the most dystopian future where my light bulb, not the power supply to the house or something, but my light bulb could get hacked. That's mind-boggling to me. It's a fucking light bulb. It doesn't need to connect to shit. That's what the light sockets, that's what the socket's for. Unless we're talking about wireless bulbs, which, to certain degrees, those things exist, right? What are you doing? What are you talking about? What the hell are you building? Oh, and it gets better. It got better this week, frankly. How about this one? Now we talked about this actually last night on season 3, episode 3 of Sex and Science Hour. 2.8 million. Now it's a voluntary recall, but 2.8 million washing machines by Samsung, made by Samsung, are on a recall. Because, and I feel bad about this, because the lids on these top loading washing machines, literally the lids on them are popping up. Somebody got their jaw was broken because the lid just popped off. I feel bad about it, but I just can't imagine this. What in the goddamn hell are you guys? I mean, the washing machine, we are talking about one of, as far as like technologies that are still in heavy use today, one of the oldest technologies in the books. I mean, these things have been around for so long. Hell, the washing machine and the dryer in the house I live in, I mean, they're like 20, 30 years old. They work like a dream. No problem. What the hell is going on, Samsung? What is going on in your factories? What is going on with your third-party suppliers? What the hell are you doing? You have exploding phones. You don't just have washing machines with the lids blowing off of them. You have also, there's been reports of washing machines themselves that are exploding. I mean, I wonder, can you call Samsung a terrorist organization? Holy shit. This is so bad. I mean, and what exactly is causing this? I've read the stories about it and no one's exactly saying what's happening with it. Is it IoT? Like, is there some command somehow getting fucked up? That's saying, oh, pop the lid, boys, boom, and somebody's jaw gets busted? It's funny. It's not funny. It's not funny, haha. It's funny, though. There are people who have been telling you, myself and a whole lot of people a lot smarter than me and who have a much bigger stage than I do, not that mine's that bad, that have been saying, look, the Internet of Things, you don't do it, you don't want it, we don't need it, there's no point to it, this is bullshit, it's only a thing because Silicon Valley's making it a thing because they need some kind of new goddamn category and they can't think of it, with their heads out of their own asses, whatever. But nobody listens, and then this shit happens. And this ain't growing pains, baby. It's washing machines! Nobody should expect their washing machine for any reason whatsoever, nor should a washing machine for any reason whatsoever have the lid getting blown off it, or should they be exploding. Unless it's a Hillary Clinton special. Huh? Oh, Samsung, you've got a bad year, baby. You've got a bad year, and I think it's just going to get worse. Now, I'll tell you, and I brought this up a little bit because I was asked, so I'll mention it here. I brought this up a little bit. Industrial espionage, or corporate espionage, whatever you want to call it, is a very real thing. And I am just saying, I am speculating. Very clear, I am speculating, okay? That, I mean, the amount of categories, because Samsung also had a problem with the refrigerators last year, it would appear either Samsung is like just stretching their production level way too thin. And it's a shame because I've given Samsung credit for, really, the fact that what they do in R&D, they actually finally, they release at some point. Like they'll put out prototypes, which no other company will do. And it pisses me off because prototypes are usually so goddamn cool. Samsung has done some great things. Things that I really agree with, and I'm glad that they've put out there. All right. But so either they're stretching themselves out too thin and they're just too tight on the margins, which is totally believable. Okay. Because their TVs ain't selling well. Talk about some bullshit technologies, 3D curved. Well, I mean, there's a point to curve, but I think it needs to be a monitor where it's real close to your face. Whatever. Either they're spreading themselves out too thin. And so, they just, it's all just too tight and they're getting way too cheap and, with things, or you're stingy, however you want to put it. Or some company or companies are like, okay, if we are going to continue dominance, we have to take this company out because they are getting too close. Who would those companies be? Like they would want to disrupt the smartphone space? I wonder. Would it be a company that just came out with their own fancy branded smartphones? Would it be a company that in many ways people consider created the category and don't want to fall from the top on their 10th year? or on their 10th anniversary of doing so, that being 2017. What was the smartphone that came out in 2007? Maybe. I'm just tossing it out there. Speculation. I don't have a lot of evidence for this, but there you have it. These things happen, and especially in Silicon Valley, it does not get talked about a lot. As much as it does occur, it does not get talked about. All this stuff gets stuffed down. I mean, Silicon Valley, they really try to run a super tight ship there. I mean, even when you think about things like, just people getting transferred away from Google and whatever else, you got to wonder about some of this stuff. So anyway, enough on all that. I've got, for our main story this week, I've got a winner. And actually, I mean that. Like, I'm not being sarcastic. I have a real winner here. This is beautiful, even though you're supposed to think the exact opposite. But of course, on Sovryn Tech, we love to, straighten things out to where exactly what is really being said when anything comes out. We love to destroy the narrative, don't we? Now, this story is coming from Jalopnik, of all things. Actually, it's originally from The Intercept, but the title is Leaked Pentagon Video About the Future of Megacities is So Very Grim. And let me read a little bit here for you before I will actually play for you, because the video is really just a bunch of slideshows. And so it's mainly all about what's being said and kind of this very somber music that gets played. But let me read a little bit here from the story before we get into that. The website The Intercept, quote, has obtained what they say is a leaked Pentagon video that glumly describes a hellish future of massive, chaotic megacities and pretty much admits the U.S. Army is not remotely ready to deal with this particular manner of shit. Wow, it's almost like I would have written that. But anyway, reading on, the Pentagon sees a world like that of Blade Runner, minus the replicants, or Elysium, minus the cool space stations. Well, that's a matter of perspective. But anyway, and it looks pretty bleak. Here, if you have 5 minutes, you can get all depressed and uneasy too. The narrator sounds like he is about to let out a long, ragged sigh before stepping out of a window, and all the imagery is just stock footage of slums, riots, favelas, and urban warfare. The video, called Megacities Urban Future, The Emerging Complexity, or that's the name of it, Megacities Urban Future, The Emerging Complexities, was used at the Pentagon's Joint Special Operations University, according to The Intercept, which got the video via a FOIA request. So this appears to be very much legit. Like, this appears to be the real deal. And The Intercept, of course, is Glenn Greenwald's, kind of outfit, a little independent outfit where anything from Snowden generally comes out through The Intercept, or from the original Snowden revelations, I should say, is mainly now coming out through that. So to some degree, if you're to trust, a major news source, this is one of the ones you could feel a little more comfortable with. So it is believed that absolutely, yes, this is an actual Pentagon video used for training in the Pentagon. Now, before I break it all down for you, I actually want you to hear the video. I think it's important. It's only about 5 minutes. And like I said, like the story even mentioned, all of the video that you see, it's just a slideshow. Okay. What the slideshows are showing is all minorities, and effectively it's not showing any white people except for the Army. There might be some importance to that because mainly it would seem to be talking about foreign lands, but, well, let's talk about it after the video airs, because I think you, like me, might have a bit of a different perspective on this. Let's go.
The future is urban. By 2030, urban areas are expected to grow by 1.4 billion, with that growth occurring almost entirely in the developing world. Cities will account for 60% of the world's population and 70% of the world's GDP. The urban environment will be the locus where drivers of instability will converge. It is the domain that by the year 2030, 60% of urban dwellers will be under the age of 18. The cities that grow the fastest will be the most challenged as resources become constrained and illicit networks fill the gap left by overextended and undercapitalized governments. The risk of natural disasters compounded by geography, climate changes, unregulated growth, and substandard infrastructure intersect to frustrate humanitarian relief. Growth will magnify the increasing separation between rich and poor. Religious and ethnic tensions will be a defining element in the social landscape. Stagnation will coexist with unprecedented development as impoverishment, slums, and shantytowns rapidly expand alongside modern high-rises, technological advances, and ever-increasing levels of prosperity. This is the world of our future. It is one we are not prepared to effectively operate within, and it is unavoidable. Megacities are complex systems where people and structures are compressed together in ways that defy both our understanding of city planning and military doctrine. It is an ecosystem that demands a highly agile and adaptive force to successfully operate within. Infrastructures will vary radically, with concentrations of high-tech transportation, globally connected air and seaports, contemporary water, utilities, and waste disposal intermixed with open landfills, overburdened sewers, polluted water, and makeshift power grids. Living habitats will extend from the high-rise to the ground-level cottage to subterranean labyrinths, each defined by its own social code and rule of law. Social structures will be equally challenged, if not dysfunctional, as historic ways of life clash with modern living, ethnic and racial differences are forced to live together, and criminal networks offer opportunity for the growing mass of unemployed. This becomes the nervous system of non-nation-state, unaligned individuals and organizations that live and work in the shadows of national rule. Where physical domains can be seen, digital domains will have limitless potential to breed and expand without limit. Digital security and trade will be increasingly threatened by sophisticated illicit economies and decentralized syndicates of crime to give adversaries global reach at an unprecedented level. This will add to the complexities of human targeting, as a proportionally smaller number of adversaries intermingle with a larger and increasing number of citizens. The scale and density of these domains is daunting. In a city of 10 million, where you hold the support of 99% of the population, the remaining 1% represents a threat of 100,000. It is an environment of convergence, hidden amongst the enormous scale and complexity of the megacity. These are the future breeding grounds, incubators, and launching pads for adversaries and hybrid threats. Linked globally, these are man-made labyrinths that provide refuge and movement across the vast sections of these cities where alternate forms of governance have taken control. The advice of doctrine, from Sun Tzu to current field manuals, has provided two fundamental options. Avoid the cities, or establish a cordon to either wait out the adversary, or drain the swamp of non-combatants and engage the remaining adversaries in high-intensity conflict within. Even our counterinsurgency doctrine, honed in the cities of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, is inadequate to address the sheer scale of population in the future urban reality. From the streets of Aachen to the Citadel and Way, we have defeated adversaries who attempted to use urban terrain to their advantage. Urban conflict is written deep into the Army's histories. But in tomorrow's conflict, these megacities are orders of magnitude greater in complexity, and our current options do not meet strategic ends. Our future operations must allow us to rapidly return the city to the people. They will be too large and complex to isolate or cordon in their entirety. Yet our soldiers will have to operate within these ecosystems with minimal disruption and flow. Our current and past strategies can no longer hold. We are facing environments that the masters of war never foresaw. We are facing a threat that requires us to redefine doctrine and the force in radically new and different ways. The future Army will confront a highly sophisticated urban-centric threat that will require that urban operations become the core requirement for the future land force. The threat is clear. Our direction remains to be defined. The future is urban.
Great Satan, could anything get more depressing than that? Oh. But only depressing in presentation. Because in reality, everything that was talked about that, and I want to break it down, and we'll do it in quotes. Okay, I'm going to go by their own quotes, what they said, pretty much what the U.S. Army, what the Pentagon, okay, what the Warfare Division of the world, or of the U.S., I should say, was saying in there. Because it's really quite the opposite. This very somber message that they're trying to portray in this video, in my opinion, is just, it's flipped upside down. Let's break it down. Let's get into some of this. And again, like I said, all of, if the links in the show notes for episode 199B, if you want to actually watch the video, but it's pretty much just showing, well, kind of what it mentioned, shanty towns, all the stuff, like in India and Middle East. I mean, just all these different areas. And it's largely showing, again, it's showing non-whites. Okay. In all this. So it's supposed to make you think like what they're talking about is, just dealing with things overseas. But really the way that they're talking about urban being so broad, like at the very end there, how they say the future is urban, I'll admit, and I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, they're going to declare martial law, blah, 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 even though some people think, come November 8th, that might happen. In 2016, this year, they've been saying that forever. I remember when I was a kid, Clinton's going to declare, that being Bill, not Hillary, Bill Clinton's going to declare martial law. This one's going to declare martial law. This one's going to declare martial law. They say it every goddamn time. I'm not saying that that's anything like that is necessarily going to happen. And of course, the timetable these people are looking at would be like, 2030s, something along those lines, or 2020 or 2030, which is interesting because a lot of these, groups like the Sierra Club and some others, you've ever heard the phrase Agenda 21 and all that. Now they have the new phrase isn't Agenda 21 anymore. Now it's like Global 2030. So 2030 would seem to be an important date to them. Maybe they had to back things up a bit. Well, maybe we can just make them back things up forever. But either way, the future they're describing, like I said, really isn't that bad. In some ways it certainly can be, but I think there's a very different reality getting portrayed here than the narrative is letting on, or that the narrative is trying to say. I should say, what they're letting on is part of what's the opposite. It's so anyway, the future being urban, like I said, my point in that is that it really does kind of sound like, okay, the army's going to have to be fucking everywhere because these megacities are going to be everywhere. And it's true. There already is a mega city in the world. It's called Bosniwash. We've talked about it on Sovryn Tech even recently. And Bosniwash is just kind of an amalgamation of Boston, New York, Washington, Baltimore and Washington and all, or Washington D.C. That's Bosniwash. Okay, so. Megacity is, a lot of people say that really is one city. Those are not a bunch of different cities. You already have one gigantic city on the eastern seaboard of the United States, that being a megacity. So, the first real example of that is here. So is that what they're talking about? Well, that's speculation. That's, kind of reading into implications perhaps, but well, take it how you want. Anyway, I want to break down some of their quotes because like I said, that all sounds very depressing. But if you're an anarchist, if you're not into governments having control, again, I think it's quite the opposite. So the reason that I'm really so excited about talking about this is that for me, it proves a lot of theories that I've had, not just speculation, but, theories. I had a lot I felt to back it up. And I think this video actually just is the icing on the cake as far as backing things up on what I said. And, pretty much what I've said is that the future, I know, these guys are scared to death of the future, it would seem. I'm not. I am, well, to put it simply, I'm a short-term pessimist, but I'm a long-term optimist. Okay. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, right now things suck, but the future is going to be fucking amazing. And I've always said that on Sovryn Tech. That's why, a lot of even the entertainment I like to watch or, consume is where the future is very hopeful. It's the reason I love Star Trek or Buck Rogers or things like that. It's because the future actually ended up all right. Unfortunately there were some terrible things in between, but, things work out seemingly for the best, or at least as best as, people do in the entertainment business. What this proved for me is what I've said on Sovryn Tech, which is that I think what's going to happen is that in our surveillance society, not just the surveillance state, but in our surveillance society, the system, as it were, the legacy system, the governments, corporatism, all of that are going to rely themselves so much on their own algorithms and their own technologies and all that, on the big bad internet itself, which is the backbone of a lot of it, right? They're going to, maybe the web more particularly, they're going to rely on that so much that if you choose to no longer exist within that system and use, say, peer-to-peer technologies, mesh networking, all that different stuff, cryptocurrencies, blah, blah, blah. If you use all that instead of what the system offers you, you could effectively disappear. You could live in the cracks. It's like one of my favorite game series, be it video game or the tabletop. I love them both. Or the, just straight up RPG. Shadowrun. In Shadowrun, that's the whole premise of it. And that's kind of where I got it is that, you can, there's these people that just live in the cracks and you can't do anything about them. like you have these anarchists. Hell, in fact, Shadowrun, the new version of Shadowrun that just came out, is called Shadowrun Anarchy. It's great. And I said that, what the future is going to end up looking like for most people is it'll be like William Gibson's The Sprawl, where, there's going to be city kind of everywhere, these megacities like they're describing. Okay, now there's going to be places outside of that, rural places that, I think you could get away with a small community and hide away, which is one solution that I've brought up many times in Sovereign Tech. And I say, rock and roll, go to it, baby. Woo. Okay, but even within the cities themselves, you could hide away because you will effectively disappear. And guess what? A lot of people, I got the emails, or I've talked to people at events and whatever, and they say, no, stop. That's not true. They'll know you're not in it. Blah, blah, blah. No, apparently not. According to the Pentagon's own leaked video, if this is the Pentagon's leaked video that we just listened to. Here's the quotes. Quote, illicit networks fill in the gap, end quote. Now that's interesting. And there's more here. Okay. But illicit networks will fill in the gap, meaning that wherever government can't serve and they won't be able to handle these, like the video kind of described how these mega cities are going to take shapes that no central planner was ever able to work on. Well, of course, because it's spontaneous order. Okay. But illicit networks will fill in the gaps, which has happened really for centuries, if not thousands of years, in whatever made up for cities of their day. Okay, that's not anything necessarily new, but it's still going to be by the people that are creating the surveillance society. It is still going to be a thing. Illicit networks are still going to be a thing. They don't know what to do about it. They are wholly unprepared to do anything about it, even with their goddamn military. Pay attention to that. Now, let's do another quote here. I'm kind of going in order in what was presented. Quote, religious and ethnic tensions will be a defining element in the social landscape, end quote. Okay, now, what this really means, what this is actually saying, yeah, I mean, some could take it as, well, this is them predicting there's going to be a race war and they're setting it up, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going down that kind of conspiracy stuff, okay? And I really don't mean to, I don't always use the term conspiracy as meaning like ridiculous. I don't mean it as a pejorative all the time. Okay. But I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But what I think this really points to is much of what I've said countless times is that humanity really has a hard limit based upon the wetware that we're in at the moment, our fleshy bodies. Okay. Of the Dunbar number, which is you can handle, depending upon the person, anywhere between, and of course there's different subcategories even with this, but you can handle anywhere from 5 to 250 people, maybe 5 to 150, depending on who you are. Okay. And I think that this speaks to this, is that people are, especially as more, as this greater urbanization happens, people are going to say tribalize a bit more. Now, understand, I don't even mean tribal as a pejorative. Okay. Shamanism is a pejorative. And that's usually what people think of when they think of tribalism. They think of shamanism, okay, where you're going back to where, we must listen to the witch doctor and all that. As to where tribalism is really just getting together with people of like minds. That's all that is. There's no reason for that to be a pejorative. Okay, but I mean, that's how I'm defining the term. I think that's the best way to do it. But you can disagree with me on that. Anyway, so I think that's really what that's speaking to. So again, Sovereign Tech proven right. People are going to stick within social groups they can handle. Next one, quote, stagnation will exist with, or will coexist with unprecedented development in technological advances, end quote. I mean, so here's the thing is that, yeah, there's going to be this poverty, but then there's also going to be, I mean, like the technological advances just aren't going to stop. They're going to keep on rolling. And those advances are going to, as more advances come, are going to quote unquote roll downhill back to, back to the, I don't want to say the impoverished necessarily, because maybe some of these people are choosing to look or, to live a certain way, but there you have it. I mean, that sounds like contradictory to say stagnation will exist with technological advance. Nah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, let me go on to the next one. Quote, this is the world of our future. It is one we are not effectively prepared to operate within, and it is unavoidable, end quote. So that's interesting. That point is saying, look, this future is going to happen no matter what we do about it. And one could argue, if you believe in some kind of new world order, which I do not, but if you believe in that sort of thing, that this is their plan. this is what they're looking for. So if you're that kind of person who thinks that sort of thing is what goes down, well, this is what you can expect, because it would appear to sound like part of their plan. But I would actually agree that, yes, this is the direction things are going. I wouldn't dare say it's unavoidable. Only an idiot would talk that way. Okay. Which, I mean, not what a shock. Military intelligence, right? The greatest oxymoron ever. Next one, quote, living habitats will extend from the high rise to the ground level cottage to subterranean labyrinths, each defined by their own social code and rule of law, end quote. So now this quote is particularly interesting because it's talking about the fact that there will be people who, I mean, this literally says what I said. People will live in the cracks, subterranean labyrinths, where people will have their own social codes and their own rule of law, meaning that the government is not going to reach down in this. And there's other quotes we're going to get to where that is absolutely, proven. And they're saying, look, this is just how it's going to happen. Okay. So, you can literally live in the cracks. I mean, this is, and when they're saying that there's going to be people that have their own social code and their own rule of law, I mean, this is effectively anarchism. They know that it's coming. And further quotes are going to explain why it's coming. Let's go to the next quote. Quote, criminal networks offering growing opportunities for the unemployed, end quote. Okay, now I don't want to stop there. I want to go to the next quote. Quote, this becomes the central nervous system of non-nation state, unaligned individuals and organizations that live and work in the shadows of national rule, end quote. What they just described is what I've talked about for years on Sovereign Tech, that being System D, or the shadow economy, which does trillions of dollars a year in transactions and business outside of any laws, outside of any rules, outside of any nation. Incredible. And not necessarily to the bad. Some of it's about getting, electric generators to people, to towns that need it, not warlords, just straight up simple towns that need it in Africa. They're admitting that. I mean, you just change the terms a little bit. Like, instead of saying criminal networks offering growing employee opportunities for the unemployed, turn it into entrepreneurial. Just change the term. Every time the state says criminal, change it to, like, say, entrepreneur or anarchist or something like that. And then you get the real picture of what they're talking about. They're scared to death that systems that they cannot possibly control, by their own admittance in this video, systems they cannot control are going to crop up that are going to be so sophisticated, we don't know what to do about them, and they are going to give people jobs. Oh no! How dare these people get jobs without the state taking a cut? This is beautiful. This video's not dire. It's dire for the state, but this video's not depressing. This video's exciting because it's saying in the next few years, technology is going to get to this point, and everything's, social structures are going to get to this point. Everything's going to get to this point to where, guess what? You can't control us anymore. And you know it. State. It says it right there. Non-nation state unaligned individuals. Sign me up. But of course, if the video was showing white people, if it was showing everyday people, businessmen, quote unquote, classy individuals, whatever, then it would be accurately describing what's going to happen here, because that's the thing, is that these underground economies that aren't going to have to fucking deal with taxes and bullshit regulations from governments, oh man, they're going to live it up. Even if it's in a subterranean labyrinth. Because how is that any different than the bullshit labyrinth that would be above them? Next, quote, where physical domains can be seen, digital domains, this is key, digital domains will have limitless potential to breed and expand without limit. Digital security and trade will be increasingly threatened by sophisticated, illicit economies. Now, stop right there, okay, before I finish the quote. Instead, like I said, remove the word illicit and put in independent economies, free market economies. Then you get the picture. Okay, so why don't we do that here? By sophisticated free market economies, let's say use Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, right? And continuing the quote, and decentralized, there's that word, syndicates of crime, or how about syndicates of entrepreneurs, of businesses, outside of government regulation, That's not in there, but it should be. Quote, to give adversaries global reach of an unprecedented level. Look, folks, end quote, if you are an anarchist, you are an adversary to the state, whether you like it or not. Okay, I mean, I am all for, and I will always be about peaceful coexistence. Okay, but let's get this straight. The state does not like you. The state does not want you to exist. They do not want to coexist with you, or they'd give you the option. Not that they can give you anything. Your liberties are yours. But just change the words. Adversaries? Well, I mean, that one's kind of accurate, right? To governments. But you're going to have reach of an unprecedented level. The idea here that they laid out, and what did they say? Like that 100,000 people will be able to influence millions. Oh, yes, baby. That's good business. That's a good thing. Reading on. Quote, this is the next quote I want to get to. Quote, this will add to the complexities and unfortunately, this is the real problem here. Actually, before, I want to save that for the last one. I'm going to skip ahead, just do one out of order here. Quote, linked globally, these are man-made labyrinths. Okay, talking about these illicit networks, quote unquote. These are man-made labyrinths that provide refuge and movement across the vast sections of these cities where alternate forms of governance have taken control. Alternate forms of governance? Anarchy? Anarchism? How about that? People will be able to move through these networks, unhindered. Awesome. Good. I'm glad you can't handle this. Because that's the next quote. Quote, our current options do not meet strategic ends. So effectively, the government knows it's going to lose control in the future based on the trajectory of technology and also the trajectory of how living conditions change within a city, through a degree of spontaneous order, right? You don't, people centrally plan cities, but cities still kind of somehow always end up, cropping up. Like somehow Chinatowns always end up being Chinatowns, right? So I want to now, again, all of that is very, very hopeful. This is very exciting. It proves everything I've said is that, yes, in the future, governments are not prepared to handle what is going to go down. Okay. You will be able to effectively disappear, and you will have entire alternative governance, infrastructures, whatever words you want to use, okay? Use positive ones, though. You're going to have all of this alternative infrastructure that you will be able to take advantage of without dealing with they, them, those, with the big bad system, or even the big bad internet. That might be a key point to this. Oh, what a future. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the real message here, or one of the real messages in this video, that is very, very heavily implied, but that they don't directly say, is, really shows the nature of governments, of militaries, of enforcement. And monopoly enforcement, of course. And here, let me get back to this quote. This is the one I skipped. Quote, this will add to the complexities of human targeting, as a proportionally smaller number of adversaries intermingle with a larger and increasing number of citizens, end quote. Human targeting. What that means, you probably already guessed it. What that means is that really what this video, the whole time what this video is complaining about, along with the anarchism, which we just brought up, along with all this, with all the order that's just going to pop up out of nowhere, all this new infrastructure, all this awesome technology that's just going to pop up out of nowhere that they can't control. Their real concern is we're not going to be able to kill people very well anymore. That's exactly what they mean by human targeting. And it also, of course, granted, that also bolsters my point that you will be able to disappear safely and get out of the system entirely. But that's pretty fucking sick. Again, that's really what this video is talking about. I mean, and they're bringing up all kinds, all of our counterinsurgency manuals, all this stuff. It just doesn't work anymore. Won't be able to work anymore because the future's urban, blah, 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 blah. We're not ready for this, yada, yada, yada. And what is the main point that they bring up that they are complaining about? They are complaining about that we will not be able to efficiently target humans. We will not be able to efficiently kill people that we deem worthy of being killed by the state. You sick fucks. Hey, I get it. Well, no, I mean, I don't get it. Not anymore. But, I was in the military. I was in the U.S. Army. I know the counterinsurgency manuals. I understand all this shit. And I'm glad that little bit of history actually already led me much to what this video was saying. Is that, they're not going to be able to, they're not going to be able to deal with this technology, not guns, not people having guns, not individuals getting violent with the state or anything, but people just building these entire infrastructures that will completely disappear. They can't control, and they're going to be able to reach all around the world, millions, just one person reaching millions with these incredible encrypted technologies, peer-to-peer technologies, and whatever else, that they won't be able to control it. And, they see this coming, okay? Some of the smarty pants in the alphabet soup organizations are letting, the Pentagon and whoever else know what's really going down. And what are they doing? Oh, they're just crying. We're not going to be able to kill people. Oh, Barack Obama, it's a good thing you're president now, because in 20 years, you're not going to be able to boast about how good you are at killing people, because that's what you said, Jack. Too bad. Share this video around. Show people that this is what they're really worried about. They are worried about their inability to kill. Any group of human beings, any human individual that had any lick of compassion would come right out and say, well, we're not going to be able to kill as many people today, and would clap and would be happy that they can't do that. But they're not. Governments, militaries, cry. Cry about it. Because technologies, open source, peer-to-peer, decentralized, all the good stuff, are here. They're growing. They're more and more getting built all the time. And they are going to end run you. And you are not prepared. And you're admitting it. You're admitting it. You're like the bully. You're like the bully on the playground. It's like, oh, there's nobody's lunch money to steal from anymore. Oh, you poor little Billy. I'm so sorry that you can't steal anybody's lunch money anymore, because they encrypted the shit out of their money and they took it away from you. They kept it for themselves because they earned it themselves in their quote unquote illicit networks. Again, change that around. They're entrepreneurial networks, baby. Woo! This is exciting. This video, go ahead, check it out again. But put the anarchist lens on and realize that is the government saying that they are afraid of you. Woo! 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 All right. I'll be back with some more Sovryn Tech right after this. Woo! Hey, let me tell you, you talk about these alternative infrastructures that we were just mentioning and all that. I've got it for you. It's a lot of it's already ready-made. All you got to do is you got to go to their website and you got to pay them for it. Agoristhosting.com. Okay, that's AGORIST hosting.com. Agoristhosting.com. It's in the name that they want to build, kind of the gray economy, that alternative economy that the government's so goddamn afraid of. I want you to go there. Okay, go to that website, get hooked up with them. They work with everything. If you want a WordPress site, whatever. You got to understand, they're very, very crypto friendly. They are Bitcoin, they are Bitcoin preferred business. Okay, they do deals. They have this whole thing set up to where, it is beautiful. They do backups on multiple continents. Okay, of all your data. They work with you. Okay, that's what's in the price of what they offer, is they work personally with you. These are some of the best guys in the world. I can tell you that personally because I know them. All right, this is the real deal. You want agoristhosting.com. All right, but they have this great deal where you can set up, you want to start your own little business, you want to start your own little network, baby, get ahead of the curve before 2030, you can get in with OpenBazaar. What an awesome technology. And they have a great setup to where you can get, you can get everything running with OpenBazaar there. I mean, no other company's offering that. Not that I know of anyway. AgoristhHosting.com. You want to get on board with this, or hell, if you just want to do a WordPress site, look, they want to be there for activists. They want to be there for people that love liberty. That's why the company exists. You want to jump on this, AgoristhHosting.com. Woo, let's get back to Sovryn.
Pixel, I'm being chased by assassin bots. I need an exit. Pixel!
Boy and Sovryn, come with me if you want to leave.
Who are you?
I'm Adelaide. I'll tell you more later. Get in the vehicle.
Get in a car with a scantily clad and beautiful woman? Guess it's been my first choice before. Let's go.
First choice.
Woo! Victory lap, baby. The state's running, and you didn't even have to fire a shot. You didn't have to you didn't have to throw a punch or anything. Woo! They're on their way. Woo! 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 All right. I love it. I'm telling you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the excitement, but I watched that video and I was like, holy shit! It's all true. Anarchism is on the way. Oh, the shadow economy, the alternative economy, the crypto economy that I've been saying would grow out of the Snowden revelations and all that is on its way. And I'm not the only one, of course, that said this sort of thing. I'm not that brilliant. Oh, thank you. All right. Now, here's something with all that great news, and I do consider it great news. And if I sound like a madman, well, hey, what the hell? We make the shit entertaining, right? This is some news that, frankly, I consider a little concerning. And I've been wondering when this sort of thing was actually going to come out. And in fact, I'm shocked that it's actually getting released or even being demonstrated to the public at such an early stage. But it is, and I'm going to actually read a story to you here. And it's coming from the Next Web. And it's Adobe's upcoming audio tool lets you synthesize speech in anyone's voice. Ooh, what does this mean? We'll start reading here. Get ready for a whole new universe of scams and conspiracy theories. At its annual Max event, Adobe showed off, that's in, like Photoshop. Adobe showed off a tool it's working on that's basically Photoshop for audio, in that it can generate authentic sounding speech in anyone's voice based on a small sample. You read that right. Feed Project Voco. So that's what it's called, Voco. Feed Project Voco about 20 minutes of audio featuring someone's voice, and the software will then let you edit that speech to deliver natural results. You can cut and paste words and even add words that weren't even part of the original sample file. Hear it in action in this video clip from the event, which features comedian Jordan Peele, like Key and Peele, those guys are absolutely hilarious. Freaking out exactly the same way I did when I saw this. So now the video is in the link for the show notes for episode 199B, but actually I'm going to play it for you right here.
Okay, so let's do something here. Okay, so suppose Michael K wants to send this audio to his wife, so he actually wants his wife to go before the dogs. Okay, so what do we do? Easily copy paste. Let's do it. Copy paste. Oh, yeah, it's done. Let's listen to it.
And I kissed my wife and my wife.
Oops. Where are the dogs? Okay, how can we let the dogs out? It's actually easy. We can just type the word dogs here.
And I kissed my wife and my dogs.
Here's more. We have to type something that's not here. So, I heard that actually on that day, Michael actually is our Jordan. So to recover the truth, let's do it. So let's remove the word my here.
Your secret's out.
And just type the word Jordan. And here we go.
And I kissed Jordan and my dogs.
We can actually type small phrases. So let's say, okay, so remove those words and we do 3 times. And play back.
And I kissed Jordan 3 times.
To do the audio stuff. Yeah! That's my photo!
Say you. Is it so difficult to spell the word tenderly? Can we get a little...
That's TMI, right?
Well, hey, everybody has their own thing.
So you see how it added like in the word Jordan, it added in the guy's name and the guy never even like really said it. I mean, that's crazy. And there's a little bit more to the story, but I'm not going to go into that. This, what I'm kind of reminded of is there's the classic Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, of course, based off a Stephen King book, which was very different. But I love the movie, The Running Man. And in that, there is the point where, they make Arnold Schwarzenegger's character look like he slaughtered millions of, or, however many protesters when he didn't. They made it look like he was in a fight with Jesse Ventura, right? When he actually wasn't in the fight and that he lost, just to make it seem like he lost the whole, contest, life or death contest for criminals in that, right? And I always wonder, it's like, okay, when are we going to get to the point to where you really can't believe what you're seeing? I mean, now when Photoshop really got advanced enough, a lot of people got to that point. I mean, and we're seeing, how many videos on YouTube of a UFO, whatever, I mean, looks so goddamn real, but they're hoaxes because somebody just used video editing or whatever. Now this is going to happen with sound. I am shocked that this technology didn't exist before. Maybe it did, if you wanted to get, talk about conspiracies, which the article brought up. I didn't have to. Maybe it already did, and that's why Adobe's allowed to bring it out. But yeah, this has some pretty wide-ranging implications that, what's admissible in court now? I mean, are you going to be able, I would imagine that Adobe is going to have some kind of fingerprinting technology built into this, much like they do with their pictures, to where you can tell if you have whatever the keys from Adobe, you can tell if something has been photoshopped, faked, whatever, and maybe in a court of law, they would have access to those keys. Of course, that also means that the court of law would be able to fudge, those keys and the evidence for themselves. This is going to be, I'll admit it, this is scary. I'm not saying I don't want the technology to exist. I could see a lot of great business opportunities. Holy shit, I could type out, I could largely type out Sovryn Tech and just run it through, after it has 20 minutes of my voice and just run it through Project Voco. And boom, there we go. It's all done and probably all, sounds perfect and is at perfect levels and all this shit. And I could release a 2-hour podcast. Hell, I could release one, 4 or 5, 6 times a day as fast as I could type them out. Actually be take me longer to type them than it would to speak them, most likely. But so it's not that practical necessarily to where it's, because some podcasters talking about this were like, well, it's going to replace us. No, not really, because it'd be a lot harder, especially when you're looking to do like real commentary, and live obviously wouldn't work for that either, which live whatever is always going to be a big deal. But yeah, what does this mean for evidence of things overall? I mean, I don't have a great answer for this. Again, it's a technology I want to exist. I really want it to be out there. But at the same time, yikes. I mean, for me, I could get into a huge subject about this, and based around like perhaps how human interactions, are at what scale those things are best to where, this wouldn't be an issue. But I mean, you could fake anything. You could fake anybody saying anything now. This is huge. I mean, frankly, unless like say a business or group is behind something or, is backing, verifying that somebody said something, like say a news organization or something like that. And even then, I mean, you could run into problems later, right? What could you possibly believe? You say, well, or I mean, look in a police interaction. Well, the officer says, well, he said this, here, I'll play the tape. Well, that whole tape might not even be real, because Project Voco could make it sound totally natural as long as they get the guy talking for 20 minutes. And I mean, police are experts at getting you to talk for 20 minutes. They're experts at getting you to talk. That's part of their job. And of course, you as as an individual should talk as little as possible. And now you have even more reason to say, I mean, don't even say I plead the fifth for 20 minutes. Just don't fucking talk. Just keep your mouth shut. Okay. Go with your Miranda rights, right? Wow. And that for me, that's almost where it's scariest is when it comes to the justice, or I should say the injustice system, that we have today. Because, I mean, they could create confessions. They could do all kinds of things. This really is, I mean, I think everybody did have a collective, like, when they saw this, and damn right they should. Again, I don't want to stop this technology from existing. I don't know, I guess what I would do is I would build into the code. I mean, just for the sanity of humanity, I would build into a code a way to verify whether or not it's whether or not it was actually real or whatever. But, that's only going to work. I mean, it just takes another company to build, the same software without that in it, to where it becomes a problem. It's going to get difficult. Here's one thing that the future is going to bring on that's a real issue is really knowing what's real. It's hard enough with the internet. I say this all the time. I've been saying this for years, that there is an objective truth out there. It's going to get harder to find, okay, when you can make people say anything. All right, but there is, I mean, and maybe that's the solution, is just that you have to have people right there in the room, with peers or something, to like, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, where you have a business or group, kind of backing what you're saying. But whatever, with the internet, you can find evidence, quote unquote evidence, for whatever, you want. And this is just going to make things like 10 times worse as far as that goes. That doesn't mean there isn't an objective truth. Okay. But if, facts is based upon sources, well, you can find sources for all kinds of bullshit. And now there's going to be a ton of crazy audio sources out there. Woo. Anyway, enough of that story. What I want to tell you about is something that is real, doesn't get mimicked. Well, not exactly. But that's a long story. And that is precious metals, baby. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium. You want to get your hands on this stuff, and you want to do it with a company that is all about the crypto economy. That means Bitcoin, baby. And that means one company, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. You want to go through them to get your precious metals. Okay. They are a Bitcoin preferred business. They love them some liberty. They love them some individualism, and they want to empower you by being able to store your wealth with real cold storage. Okay. That's what I like to call precious metals. That's like that offline cold storage in the most serious way. Okay. So you want to do that. Go to gold.zog.ninja. That's gold.zog.ninja. All right. Or rrbi.co. Let them know the Golden Stallion sent you. They will know who you're talking about because they listen to this show. So, and I cannot thank them enough for also being a sponsor of Sovryn Tech. Anyway, gold.zog.ninja. Get your hands on this stuff. Let's get back to some more of that old Sovryn Tech, baby. Woo! Whoa, hey, you want to slow down?
I don't do slow. I move fast.
Okay, well, so you're French.
Everyone in the future speaks French.
Wait. The future?
From 2099. Permanent Autonomous Zone, Osiris-1. You've been there.
Oh, this isn't happening. It only thinks it's happening. How do I know you're from Osiris-1?
RGP fingerprint Omega 746566666.
Okay, you're legit. Hey, really, be careful. You drive like you're playing a video game.
That is how you programmed me. Game talk.
It is time for Game Talk, and I don't know how I fit all this information into 2 hours. I never do. But anyway, we'll make this just a short Game Talk here for episode 199B. And one thing I'll announce is that something we talked about that was on its way, we didn't exactly know the name, I think, at the time, but Facebook was coming out with its own gaming platform for desktop, for PC and PC alone. It's not out for Mac or Linux yet, if ever. But it's called Facebook Game Room, and there is a link in the show notes where you can get your hands on it. I have downloaded it. I have checked it out to do my tech journalist diligence. And, I mean, the games on it, they're not like Steam class. These aren't AAA games. It's just the same bullshit games you play on mobile. Not that there aren't great games on mobile, but a lot of them are bullshit. Like a bullshit game on mobile, generally, for my opinion, just my opinion. I know people need to make a living, and this is kind of how they do it. Okay, fine. But I think IAP, in-app purchase games, like where you have to keep paying to get in on the game. Nothing wrong with in-app purchases necessarily, but if you need it to keep playing the game or to beat the game, I have an issue with it. Games, in my opinion, and I know I'm old school, should be however much they cost, $5 to $50, and that's the end of it. And you don't need to pay anymore to conquer that thing. But anyway, there's an old school term for you, conquer in gaming. But yeah, it's all, Clash of Clans, Clash of whatever. I mean, it's all games like that. So I wasn't that impressed. I think there's a market for that sort of thing, certainly. And it's interesting. I mean, and I do see Facebook Game Room. That's effectively going to be Facebook's App Store, which they have to have happen. And this will probably, sooner or later will get intertwined with, like, say, the Oculus store, Oculus Rift and all that with VR and whatever else. It's just going to be a thing. So that's my guess on that. That actually brings me to something. Before I get into the second quick subject I want to bring up during Game Talk this week, I wonder what's going to happen. Emulation is going to get really interesting with virtual reality. And like we said, Microsoft is doing a big push, especially in making virtual reality affordable with $300 headsets that can just instantly connect to, your whatever PC you happen to have. It doesn't require as badass a hardware, perhaps as other solutions do. But any VR solution really that you're using, eventually with emulators, like emulating systems and games and playing stuff, like, could you buy a virtual iPhone and then, buy through the App Store? Like, I want, somehow a lot of that stuff has kind of got to happen. So I wonder if you could, play mobile games, say through the Oculus Rift store or something, on an actual mobile device in VR. I think people would do that. Or at least eventually they would do that. If anything, maybe 10 years down the line, they do it out of nostalgia. So it's an interesting play, this Facebook Game Room thing. I think it's, what I see on it, I think is crap. I doubt I'll ever open it again unless an update comes around, but it's there. So you can find the link in the show notes for that. But the other thing that's a little more interesting to me is actually something that I use daily. It's what I use to do all kinds of things, including, I use it to make all of the show art, all the, like cover art, quote unquote, for every episode of Sex and Science Hour and Sovryn Tech, even the Patreon episodes and all that. And that is Miitomo from Nintendo, which is a mobile app, which will probably, I think I said this, was it last week when I was talking about the Nintendo Switch when they did the announcement, or a couple weeks ago? because the Nintendo Switch, which is their new console coming out in March 2017, is based off of a Tegra, chip, I think that they're going to be able to play their Android games, on there. And so I think Miitomo is going to be playable on the Switch, just saying. But Miitomo is getting, and this is interesting because I think this kind of points in that direction. Miitomo is in the near future. They didn't give an exact date, but they did officially mention it in the app itself, in the message board, whatever in the app, that there's going to be a big update coming. And that update is actually going to add, because Miitomo is kind of a social network, where you have like these little me characters, and you see them on all the Sovryn Tech cover art that can interact with each other. The thing is, it's kind of limited, okay? But this update's going to change that. It's limited in that, like the questions that it asks, sort of like Ask FM, but it's worse because you can't actually choose the questions. Like they're all made by Nintendo, and you keep getting the same one month or day after day, not day after day, but week after week, month after month, whatever. And again, Miitomo came out just in April, but now, part of the thing that sucked about it is that like your me is in this little house, and you couldn't customize the house. You can customize your me endlessly, which that's nice. And it can even talk, which you can customize that too. But you couldn't do anything with the house. I mean, there was a bunch of different features, and you couldn't ask the custom questions, and there wasn't a private messaging service built into it. This update, all those things I said, and you can go back to the episodes of Sovryn Tech when Miitomo first came out back in April 2016. And I said, these are the things it needs. Well, guess what? That's what they're going to build into it. This update's going to put all of that in. And the update's also going to have, there's going to be sidekick me's, like extra me's that you can do, but you're going to be able to design the house and all that stuff. And I think a lot of this is going to end up becoming part of the, kind of the social networking experience that you're going to have on mobile and also, on console with the Nintendo Switch coming up, but will also be, transposable to your, whatever mobile device, whatever smartphone you're using or tablet or, what have you. So this big update, I'm a big fan of Miitomo. I am looking forward to this. I think it's cool. I'll be right back. Hey, we've been talking about the crypto economy this whole episode, really, and how it's coming, how it's inevitable, and even the government will tell you so. So if you want to keep track of what's happening in the crypto economy with cryptocurrencies, the best wallets, the prices, all the statistics you could possibly want, and even it gets very social, go to cryptocompare.com. I love this website. I use it. It's just open all day for me. I have it open all day. Cryptocompare.com, and I cannot thank them enough for supporting Sovryn Tech, for sponsoring it. Cryptocompare.com. Woo! Back to Sovryn Tech.
Pixel says it should be this panel.
We need to hack into the control center to shut down all of those assassin bots.
Well, you're the android. Can't you just jack in?
Oui. But the way I connect is more like a jack off.
Was that a joke?
Hacking is no joke.
Directly connecting certainly beats doing it with the keyboard.
You're notorious for your love of cyber sex.
Okay, now that was a joke. Just get hacking.
A quick hack solves everything. HackSec.
It is time for HackSec, where we talk issues of hacking and security. And woo, boy. Now, when every 25 episodes, I shake things up. And episode 200 is going to be coming up here very soon. So I'm going to shake things up, but the one segment you can always count on being around is HackSec. It is, a lot of people I know wish the whole show was HackSec, but I like to have variety. I like to talk about the good things too. And there's not always a lot of good news to talk about in HackSec. The last week I thought that was kind of some good news after a fashion. And I guess depending on how some people interpreted it as Skynet coming, I didn't see it that way at all. Anyway, so this is a story I want to get to. I think this is really important, and it actually leads to a debate that I've had with a lot of my more freedom-oriented compatriots. And I don't know if I like that word. My comrades, Brian Soviet. No. Oops. Anyway, here we go. This is from The Guardian. Documents show AT&T secretly sells customer data to law enforcement. According to company documents revealed by the Daily Beast, data from Hemisphere, and that's a program, Hemisphere, is sold to police departments for $100,000 to $1 million a year. Let's read a little bit of the story. Telecommunications giant AT&T is selling access to customer data to local law enforcement in secret, new documents released on Monday reveal. The program, called Hemisphere, was previously known only as a quote-unquote partnership between the company and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, of course, for the purposes of counter-narcotics operations. It accesses the trove of telephone metadata available to AT&T, who control a large portion of America's landline and cell phone infrastructure, and who also, we talked about this last week, is buying Time Warner. Oh, how about that infrastructure, baby? Woo! Sell that to the government. Or sell the data collected from it to the government, right? Unlike other providers who delete their stored metadata after a certain time, AT&T keeps information like call time, duration, and even location data on file for years, with records dating back to 2008. But according to internal company documents revealed Monday that means it's like they hold on to stuff for almost a decade. Reading on, but according to internal company documents revealed Monday by the Daily Beast, Hemisphere is being sold to local police departments and used to investigate, not just federal folks, to investigate everything from murder to Medicaid fraud, costing U.S. taxpayers millions of dollars every year, even while riding roughshod over privacy concerns. Access to Hemisphere costs, Stallion breaking in, the point they're making is that the money that the police and whoever else pays to AT&T is, that's your tax dollars, and taxation is theft. Woo. So you're really fronting the bill to buy out your own privacy, to buy off. Access, reading on, to Hemisphere costs local police between $100,000 and more than $1 million a year, the documents reveal, and its use requires just an administrative subpoena, a much lower judicial bar than a search warrant, because it does not need to be issued by a judge. Now, some people, breaking in again, some people this week in other, journalist sources that were talking about this story were saying, oh, well, it's not just like they can just sell it off. They have to get a warrant. No, they just get this bull. Yeah, I mean, it's a warrant technically, but they just get this bullshit. They don't even need a judge. Who the hell's not going to rubber stamp this, a fucking administrative warrant, a subpoena? Come on. Reading on. I mean, look, why even bother with the piece of fucking paper? Uber doesn't anymore. Uber's just like, oh, here, please have our information on, where everybody in America goes. Right? It is what they do. We talked about that on a HackSec on Sovryn Tech. Reading on, until Monday, Hemisphere's use was kept secret from the public and even from judges, defense attorneys, and lawmakers by an agreement between law enforcement and AT&T, which means police must not risk disclosing its use in public or even in court. This means that police take leads from Hemisphere, but then construct cases around that lead so that the program can be protected from scrutiny, a practice known as, quote-unquote, parallel construction, according to the Beast. The revelations comes as AT&T prepares for its controversial $85 billion acquisition of Time Warner, which we talked about last week. Okay, enough. There's more to the story there. You can find it in the show notes for episode 199B. Let's break into this. And here, just really, here's the crux of my point, okay? Because again, how it doesn't get any more in bed with each other. It doesn't get any more corporatist than the government doing parallel construction of cases so that they can hide their relationship with AT&T, so that they can hide their affair effectively with AT&T. And my question to you, my question to Sovryn Tech listeners, my question to, all of the ANCAPs and the libertarians and all this, all right, who love them some business. At what point do we finally call a lot of these companies arms of the state? At what point do we just call them the state? At what point does AT&T just not get added into the alphabet soup organization list that belongs to the government, that is the government? Like the NSA, CIA, FBI. It just fits right in. Let's see. So who's who's your adversary? Who's trampling all over you, and who is part of that monopoly use of force? Let's see. NSA, CIA, FBI, AT&T. It just fits right in. It's even 3 letters. It's perfect. It's just like the rest of them. There's an ampersand. Woo-hoo. This is my point. The less we use the word corporatism, the less we realize, just this really unholy fucking alliance that exists between big business, which I don't think would even exist if there wasn't a government. Okay, not big business. There'd be plenty of businesses, and I support them, and I'd have my own, and I do. And great. But this unholy alliance between big business and government, AT&T is an arm of the state. Understand. I don't think it's opinion anymore. How much more in bed do they need to be? How much deeper does the government's dick need to be inside them for it to be one flesh, like the good old Bible says? I'm an atheist, relax. When do we do it? When do we finally call these companies out? When do we finally say, no, AT&T is fucking evil? If the state is evil, so are companies that engage in this shit. When do we start saying that? And then, because then it leads me to this. When do we start saying this about AlphaGoog? When do we start saying this about maybe even Apple? Certainly Facebook. Oh, fuck yes, Facebook. When do we start looking at them as, no, you are not private industry. You are not a creature of the market. You are a creature of Jekyll Island. You are a creature of, the fucking behemoth that is the state. When? Is this not enough yet? If this isn't enough, then I accuse all of you who are concerned about the state, but not concerned about companies like AT&T, you have cognitive dissonance as bad as everybody else out there. Yes, I will judge you. I will be the metaphorical Judge fucking Dredd with no lethality. And I will tell you, you are being judged. You have cognitive dissonance. You are insane. I mean, it's just a paycheck. $1 million to these people with your tax money? Come on. It's not voluntary. I'll be back with more. Or maybe I won't.
The reviews are in, and Babylon 5's a winner. The New York Daily News says Babylon 5 could make Star Wars look like a walk in the park. The Chicago Sun-Times calls it a welcome addition to the sci-fi universe. Impressive, perfectly scaled for TV, raves the LA Times. And the Kansas City Star says Babylon 5 is one space station you're likely to want to visit frequently. See for yourself what everyone's talking about on Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 is available for download on your favorite torrent site. See it now to experience the greatest show in television history. Babylon 5. Adelaide, why are we stopping?
In the future, we have a custom.
What's the custom?
After a successful mission, a team usually has love, a ménage à trois, or orgy.
Yeah, there's only two of us.
I already contacted the others to come join us. I love women too.
Whoa, Adelaide, you're beautiful, but you're an android.
I am fully functional. I am programmed in multiple techniques, a broad variety of...
Wow, I guess so. You did say you move fast. Adelaide, the future is going to be so good.
The climax.
Come here, Brian.
Oh, Brian, Sovryn. Oh, no wonder people were protesting your debauchery.
Yes. Oh, I love Brian. It's a jolly good time. Jolly good. Oh, I love women. Oh, yes. still need love. Jane, darling, show me your knickers, would you? Oh, yes. Oh, Pixel. Oh, it's my pussy, Pixel. Oh, God. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We did not have this under communism. Oh.
You keep having fun, ladies. I'll be right back. Agent Sovryn here.
Brian?
Hey, Stephanie, my love. Oh, what's going on? You're missing out on quite the party here.
Jane. Oh, Jane. I thought you were so conservative.
It sounds like it. Well, that's all right. I have plenty of late-night fun with the girls back in the base.
Oh, I know it. Most of them never stop talking about you. I know I sure as hell can.
Oh, Brian, I love you.
I love you too, hot stuff. So, what's going on? I don't imagine you called to hear all your girlfriends moaning.
Well, you told me to let you know the instant your favorite toy was finished getting repaired.
The lady is ready?
The status report from Dr. Goldblossom just came in. She says Redwolf is ready to go.
Oh, man, I can't wait. All right. I'm going to head over to the Wolf's Lair now. Well, actually, I just need to finish up here quick. Ooh.
Go have fun with the girls, Brian. But, save some for me.
Actually, Stephanie, what are you up to in a couple of hours?
Yes.
Oh, Jane, your lips are so soft. To kiss you all over.
Did the ladies keep you longer than expected?
Something like that. You know how those things go.
Oh, I know. So, this is the Wolf's Lair. It suits you. Dark, in a cave. It's like your Batman fantasy and caveman fantasy all wrapped into one hollow mesa in the desert.
You know me too well, love. But yeah, this is it. Ever since Skylab C was destroyed a year ago, I needed a new base of operations and some new toys. I thought this was the perfect place for that. All of the magnetic anomalies and heat signatures throw off just about any satellite surveillance I could imagine. And Dr. Goldblossom has done amazing work in engineering and design.
Oh, she does amazing work, all right. And I certainly like her design.
I don't doubt that. And then, She built this. Redwolf.
You've been flying this helicopter almost non-stop this past year. Well, whenever you're not in VR in Unimatrix Zero. It's no wonder it needed so much work done to it.
Well, I just figured that if a bunch of asshats are threatening to throw my friends out of helicopters, I'd build my own helicopter to put theirs out of commission.
Thus, Redwolf, loaded with the most advanced defensive mechanisms ever built. Laser-based system disruptors, sunburst anti-missile countermeasures, microwave jamming equipment, Li-Fi communication systems, stealth mode, remote piloting, and return-to-base protocol, capable of Mach speeds and near-orbital flight, powered by a mini thorium reactor with sandbox systems built in an air-gapped...
Are you making fun of one of my speeches?
Me? Oh, never.
I love you.
I love you too, you hot man.
Want to go for a ride?
In Redwolf?
Yeah, come on. I'll take it easy. I won't kick in the jets too much.
Well, I suppose we haven't been on a date in a while.
I'll take you wherever you want to go. Rome, Yellowknife, Iceland, the stars.
All right, man of tomorrow. You get to whisk me away, but surprise me on the destination.
You got it.
Redwolf systems ready.
All right, fasten safety belts.
You know, in New Hampshire, you don't have to wear safety belts.
Funny, but in the lady here, you're going to want to, believe me.
Hey, why do you keep calling Redwolf the lady?
That's an old inside nerd joke.
Your favorite kind.
Ready?
Ready.
Let's go.
flying it.
Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. Let's really put her through the paces. Maybe a little music while we're at it. Upside down. This one can. Alright. Hold on. Let me just hit the boosters again.
Agent Sovryn here.
Agent Sovryn, the base is under attack by assassin bots. Repeat, we're under attack. We're under...
Natalia? Natalia!
How did they find our base? Do you think it's the ominous blockchain?
Almost certainly. But I don't know how they found the base. Computer, is the Wolf Slayer under any kind of attack?
Negative. The lair is under normal operations.
We have to get to the base then.
We will. But Stephanie, if anything happens to me at the base, set the autopilot and get back to the lair. At least for now, they don't seem to know where that is. Now hold on.
To be concluded on next week's Sovryn Tech.